This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com. The only place to be in your
home, journeying to universes uncharted. Welcome to Through the Looking Glass. I am your co-pilot, Scott Criscuolo. Let me bring in my co-pilot, and then we'll get into what's on my mind. So this guy's amazing. He does Chronoso, although there's a Chronoso spinoff apparently.
Oh yeah,
as I saw today. One of my favorite people, and I owe him an apology as much as I owe our audience. Good evening, Thunder from or morning or afternoon, Thunder from down under, Mr. Dave Hall. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Scott. Thank you for the introduction. It's good to be back. Thank you for joining us, everyone. It is good to be back. We do apologize for the slightly longer break than normal. Just a few kinks kicked up. We all have jobs, and a few kinks kicked into the works, and we had to skip a month. But we're back. We're back, and we're ready to rock with some. I think with a couple of good topics, depending on how long it takes us to get through the first topic.
I know. Yes, exactly. But
I think we're in for a good episode today.
I think we're we're always in for a great episode. And I want to. As Dave mentioned, we had a stretch going. We're on episode. Oh God, I don't even have my grade in front of me. I think we're in the. Are we in the 50s?
Well and truly.
Yeah, we are, right? I'll look that up while we're talking. But I want to Dave is being very generous. It was totally my fault why we didn't do an episode in February. Something popped up and it kind of snuck up on me. And it was a night we were recording, and I feel awful. So I thank Dave for not replacing me with Matt Farrell. And or Aaron George or anyone else. Although Aaron George would be a great guy to fly around the Looking Glass with. I think the three of us would have a lot of fun. But we are back, and we will hopefully, God willing, will never happen again. Thank you for coming back. We appreciate it. But as Dave said, we have a fun topic tonight, because this topic actually came up back in December in our mailbag episode. And Dave and I, we didn't punt it, but it was a really, really good question that I feel like would have been completely disrespected. We're on episode 53. This is episode 53. So I think we would have totally disrespected the topic and our listener if we decided to just do a throwaway question, a throwaway answer, and not really dive into it. So this is one that I can't believe we've never done, because this is one that's, I don't want to say easy. Well, it's not easy, but it's one it's a question. It's an easy question to ask, not necessarily an easy question to answer. We will do it tonight.
It's certainly one that all the fans, especially fans from that time, would always have asked. It's that what if question that everyone's always sort of wanted to know and had a bit of fun doing their fantasy booking around. So,
right.
Yeah.
So the big question is, we've talked a lot. We've done a few episodes in the past about guys who, had left the company, WWE or WCW, retired or had to retire because of injury and such. This is one of the biggest guys who left early. I mean, really his full career lasted, 11 years, but his prime career was probably 6 years. Yeah. And of course, we're talking about arguably one of the greatest of all time, and that is, of course, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Austin, of course, retired from in-ring competition the night after WrestleMania 19, when he lost to The Rock. Did the favor, put him over. Sans the one match that I was blessed to see live, and that was, of course, at WrestleMania 38, when he beat Kevin Owens. So the question tonight is, of course, a very easy one. What if he was fine? What if there was no neck issues? What if there was no back issues? What if there was no knee issues? What if he wasn't having anxiety attacks and going to the hospital with anxiety palpitations and such? What if he was just there, came out the next night on Raw and kept trucking along? We assume that it's probably going to be about a 1 year odyssey to take us to WrestleMania 20 in Madison Square Garden. I still feel at some point he would have probably stepped aside, maybe not for health purposes, but maybe for, I think I've covered everything I need to cover, and start keeping young guys, in the forefront. But
I think he would have ended up in a position where he would choose to step aside from regular every week, every day in-ring competition and backed off to sort of where The Undertaker spent a lot of years. That,
right,
every maybe just the big one, like the big four, or and then maybe just WrestleMania and the occasional SummerSlam. Like, I think he would have stayed involved, but on a much less consistent schedule. But I certainly think we would have got probably at least another 2 years out of him, if not more. And when you said, like, we come back to this idea of where we're at with these timelines, when we say, what if there was no neck injury? We're talking about the fact that the neck injury put him into retirement at this point, not the fact that we're not saying he didn't get dropped on his head by Owen Hart back in 97. We're saying that this is just, what if after WrestleMania 19, the neck was still good enough to go.
Right. What we're not going to do tonight, I want to preface this, and I said this, Dave and I chatted about this earlier. In this alternate universe, he still walked out in 2002. We're not going to kill two birds with one stone, because I have a feeling that could be a separate episode.
Yeah.
He not got pissed off and walked out in June of 2002 and stayed home until February of 2003. We're gonna let that go. We're gonna leave that, because I think it kind of helps our story, because I'm already going out of the realm for what we're gonna do with him at the outset. For me, anyway.
And I think you could argue that that time period, like, look, in reality, that time period probably helped him see, my neck isn't good enough and I'm not going to be able to continue with my career, because he'd had all this time where he wasn't getting bumps and dropped on his back and bouncing around the ring. But there would have been the other hope would have been, whilst he left in the worst, not the great circumstances, that with that extended layoff, look, my back can recover a little bit. I can get some health back going. I should be able to push myself again. Like, I think, and that's where I think we're bringing it. Our storyline is he still has the argument with Vince. He still takes his ball and goes home in June of 2002. And in that time, he discovers he's able to rehab a little bit. His neck's feeling a lot better. And he's like, no. When he comes back, he's like, no, I'm good to go.
Right. So if you want us to do a separate episode down the line where we say that Austin doesn't take his ball and go home, we could do that, because that kind of that changes the complexity of 2002 and into 2003. So in this specific journey, we will assume that we're going to stick with the fact that Austin got pissed off. If you guys remember the backstory, for some fans who may not know, Austin was not, he'd be the first to tell you, he was threatened in 2002, feeling like he was not the top guy, even though he was. He did not wrestle Hollywood Hogan at WrestleMania 18, although that seemed to be the easy thing, because you had the face of the Federation era versus the face of the Attitude Era. It was ready-made, but I don't know what happened there. Apparently there was a distrust thing. Who the hell knows? But of course it went.
A lot of the rumors and look, I mean, these are rumors, the occasional snippets of interviews, but I think part of it lay in that there were issues for Austin with Hogan that dated back to when Hogan turned up in WCW. And Austin I don't think he trusted Hogan to do business. And as a result, he didn't want that match. But I think, like you're saying, that the flow on effect was then he began to feel like WWF wasn't putting him or treating him the way he deserved to be treated himself.
Right. According to things I've read, pretty much, in the build up to No Way Out, we're gonna backtrack a little bit about this Austin thing because it kind of has to start this way. So bear with us. Yeah. So No Way Out 02, Milwaukee. Obviously, the big thing was Vince. A lot of the going back even further, when Vince bought WCW in March of 2001, he only took the guys who were under contract without any options. All of the big wigs, all of the muckety mucks, the NWO, Sting, Steiner, Goldberg, all those guys decided they wanted to take a vacation. They were kind of sick of wrestling because they
were under Time Warner contracts, not WCW contracts. So they had these cushy contracts that meant they would get money without actually having to wrestle.
Right. So they decided to just sit home, let Time Warner pay them, and then when they were done being paid by Time Warner, they'll figure out what they want to do next. Yeah. So that's why most of the invasion was all of the mid-carders and losers and stiffs. And that's why in the end, Austin ended up having to be the face of the alliance, because he really didn't have anybody as the face of the alliance. Because anybody you would have thought of that would have been an enemy to WWF, we could say at that moment, in 2001, wasn't there because they were collecting the, as I call it, the spinach from Time Warner. So that's why we had the invasion the way it was. Fast forward. February of 2002, Vince signs the NWO. At No Way Out, Austin refused a beer gift from the NWO, and they cost him his match later that night against Chris Jericho for the world title, for the Undisputed title. Problems were beginning to surface backstage. Of course, Austin and Hogan, who, again, you would have easily thought was the money match. As a matter of fact, I'll be honest with you, and this is no disrespect to Rock. I'm not. But if Austin Hogan was the match for WrestleMania 18, it would have main evented.
Yep,
easily. And it would have been last, not Triple H.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and Hogan would never have got cheered.
No. Good point. No. And of course, obviously, and years later, I don't know if hindsight's 2020, if they're just trying to play it cool, but Chris Jericho and Triple H seem to have always said that they thought they shouldn't have gone on last. I'm sure that was not their thought at that moment. I mean, we're not all, we were all.
I reckon that Jericho probably thought it at the time. I'm not convinced Hunter ever had that thought in his head.
No, I don't either. He wanted the main event, and then he can. Well, as you tell you, as we've always learned, particularly in wrestling, Dave, the story is written by the winners. So they could Triple H could sculpt it however he'd like. In any event, Hogan and Austin were slated to wrestle, and both guys supposedly told Vince, "I'm not losing to him." In recent years, Stone Cold has claimed that he didn't want the match because he didn't want to wrestle at a slower pace and that he didn't think they could deliver. I don't believe that. And I love Austin. I don't believe that. I'm sorry. I think he's shortchanging the fans. I think he's, and again, I love Steve, but we can always nitpick things. That's the point of us doing podcasts. I'm of the mindset that opinions like that, and I understand we're all fans, we're not wrestlers, so we think we know everything and we really don't. But the fact remains, Dave, we're the ones whose wallets are open. So that was the match everybody wanted to see. The face of the Federation era versus the face of the Attitude Era. The guy who raised the WWF from regional networks to the big time, and the guy who raised the WWF from the dead. Rose from the ashes, the Phoenix. The fact remains is Austin was winning that match. And if I'm Vince, if we're in an alternate universe, Dave, and we could maybe book this as a separate thing down the line. Maybe in a WrestleMania episode. So we never really touched. Do we touch this show?
No, I don't think we've touched this. And
no,
and we are due a WrestleMania episode next month. So
yes,
let's put that down on the back burner, maybe.
Yes. So the fact remains is Austin wins that match, just like Rock won the match in the Prime universe. So sorry, Hogan. Either you wrestle Austin and put him over, or you can go pound sand. I'm sorry. Or you can wrestle Rock in a tag. You could do nothing. But if you want the big payday, you're putting over this guy, whether you like it or not. And Austin thinking he had to put Hogan over is kind of silly. I mean, wouldn't he think he was going to win? I mean,
I think this is where what I've heard starts to play. I think everyone would have thought Austin's going to win. I think Austin's concern was once the match would be announced, I think he was worried Hogan would start playing politics and that those backstage politics might actually win over and put him in the position where Hogan was refusing to lose. And that's what I think Austin was worried about. He didn't trust Hogan from the way Hogan came into WCW, which basically cost him his spot and his push back in 1994.
Yep.
And while injury led to his leaving, I think it all tied back to the arrival of Hogan. So I think Austin had concerns and worries. We know from other conversations, other things Austin has said, Austin has a hard time letting things go. Like he was very vocal that he did struggle to forgive Owen Hart for what happened. And when you even hear interviews, while he won't talk bad of Owen, you've always heard that he still struggles with the way that match went down and his neck injury occurred. So Austin struggles to let things go. And I think he didn't trust that Hogan would do the right thing and that Hogan wouldn't start politicking, and that it would be, if the match had been announced, it would then put him in a position where you've got he might put Vince in a bad spot, and Vince might sort of, I'm gonna give in to what Hogan wants, which I don't think Austin was willing to risk.
I'll sign up to that theory, Dave. I don't think you're wrong. Unfortunately, the worst part of that is Vince is the boss. So I think you know what this goes back to? The more I'm thinking about it, it kind of goes back to almost to Montreal, because Austin saw firsthand how, as much as he thinks he's a tough guy, Vince can very easily manipulate it. And if Shawn Michaels could manipulate him, then the greatest, rest in peace, and we did an episode, I love him more than life itself, the master manipulator could have very easily gotten it.
That's it. I think you're right. I think Montreal probably plays a role in there in Austin,
because Austin saw firsthand that Vince is, as much as Vince wants to say he's the big grapefruit guy and everything, he's a bigger sucker than in some cases, because he was very easily manipulated by more people than you think. And if Shawn Michaels, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you finish. I was just going to say, and the thing is, Austin was very tight with Bret Hart. He was very close with Bret Hart. So
yes.
not only does he sees it from the perspective of, while he's always publicly since then sort of gone, well, this, we had to move forward, but he was very close with Bret. You would have thought that in the moment he would have been siding with Bret in the moment, but he knew he had to, because of his right. I mean, that this is public knowledge. His push and his right, the way things were going for him, he couldn't not turn up. He couldn't back out of his contract once Montreal had happened. So, Austin's on record, like through himself and through Mick Foley, that Foley said that he talked to Austin when Foley said he wasn't going to come in after Montreal, and Austin said, I can't not show because I'm on the way up now. So yeah, I think Montreal is very big into it.
Yeah. In the end, though, and this is a completely different topic, of course. We will get to our main topic, folks, but obviously if we go down a rabbit hole like this, it usually doesn't end until we go all the way to Japan and the back end of the world. Or Australia, I suppose. I'm going to wave to Dave on the other end.
I'm all the way down here.
All the way down there. Realistically, Vince knew the end game, and Hogan could fuck around all he wanted. Vince is the boss. Act like the fucking boss if you want to be, if you think you are, and say, no, I'm sorry. Austin's the guy right now. This isn't 1987. You either do it or you don't. But this is your only option. And if you want to walk out, there's the fucking door. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? Ring of Honor? Where are you going to go, Hulk? Go home? Go home.
He'll start his own touring show. He'll come all the way down to Australia with a bunch of his friends.
9 years early. Or whatever that was. Yeah, it was 9 years, right? 2011, I guess it was, or 2000.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. So ultimately, that was Vince. I personally think Vince. I think the match would have been great. Probably not. But I mean, Rock and Hogan at its base is not great. The juice set that. Match to that level. So I don't think Austin Hogan, if they wrestled, would have been any better. But the fact remains is, if those two guys really gave a shit about the business, and they both do deep down, the right thing would have happened. The match would have been solid, and Austin would have been put over. But that's just my thinking. We'll leave it at that. But so he instead wrestles Scott Hall in a match nobody fucking cares, and he doesn't attend. Him and Deborah don't attend the WrestleMania after party, which is very rare. Meanwhile, him and Deborah are having issues to begin with. Austin's back and forth. He's feuding with Flair. He's wrestling Taker. At Judgment Day, he's in a number one contender. Wait, is it Judgment Day? No. Judgment Day is wrestling Flair and Big Show in that silly handicap match. Then of course, as this is happening, Brock Lesnar, who debuted the night after WrestleMania, is moving up the chart. And Vince wanted him to wrestle Austin in a King of the Ring qualifying match on Raw. And Brock was gonna win. All of that scenario didn't bother Steve. What bothered him was that, why don't you put him and I in the final on pay-per-view? And I put him over. Why don't you build it? And Austin thought he was being disrespected by Vince for being in a throwaway, nothing qualifying match. And in Steve's case, he's right. He's right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The way it was handled, of course, was very poor, and Austin just walked away. And then we had the whole Rock, take your ball and go home and all that nonsense. And then we go through 2002, and then they make amends over the holidays. And Now we begin. So here's where we'll start the timeline, Dave. So Austin is made amends with Vince. They've kissed and made up, and now he's coming back. Of course, in the interim, since he's been gone, Eric Bischoff is the general manager of Raw. Of course, as everyone knows, going back to Hogan, Steve Austin is not the biggest Eric Bischoff fan, as we all know. Neither is I guess Austin and CM Punk have something in common. They both got fired via FedEx. So Austin, if in the Prime universe, of course, Austin comes back, wrestles a quick 4-minute match with Eric Bischoff at No Way Out in Montreal, beats the crap out of him and wins a match, doesn't speak, and then comes back and comes back, does his thing. He wrestles The Rock at WrestleMania 19 in Seattle, puts Rock over, and is gone. And then comes back a couple months later as the GM, and we all know what happened. The sheriff and which I thought was dumb. And then eventually Austin the sheriff thing ditched, and he's off camera pretty much right after WrestleMania 20 when he stuns Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. Because I'm on my watch timeline right now, I'm into late May of 2004, and he hasn't been on pretty much since. So he doesn't come back at this point. Now this is when Austin does his shots from here, from time to time. So the first question I have for you, Dave, is in our universe, is Austin's first match still with Eric Bischoff? If it is, let me finish my point and then and then tell me what you think. If we choose it to be, my theory is we wait and have it at WrestleMania. And that's where and that's where Austin gets the ripcord pulled.
Well, that's an interesting question. So I was going to say that I thought the storyline for bringing Austin back into the company was very well done. The whole Bischoff needs to make a statement. He goes out, says he'll sign Austin. You get the corniness of going to the bars and all that. That was all. I liked it. It's corny, but it was good storytelling.
Well, if you remember, on a side note, before you go any further, if you remember, Dave, in 2002, he was going to feud with Eddie, which I thought would have been great. And that I felt like that was a feud that was wasted. We have talked about that in the past. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just had that in my head. Go ahead.
That's all right. So I always liked the way they brought him back, and then the arrival at No Way Out, and I thought that was really well done. And at a base level, I think you could literally keep to that storyline and bring him back at No Way Out, and everything's great. Where the problem lies, if we do that, is what would you then do with Austin at WrestleMania? And this comes back to sort of, I guess, why Austin and The Rock faced each other at WrestleMania 19. And that is because Austin had made the decision he was going to retire. He wanted one more match. He wanted it to be against The Rock because he wanted to return the favor to The Rock and put him over for the times that Rock had put him, allowed him to win those, the 2 previous WrestleMania encounters, plus just about every other encounter they'd ever had. And Austin is known for being a guy who understands the business, wants to do what's right, and he wanted to go out by putting someone over who could benefit from it. And in this case, it was The Rock. But if Austin is not retiring, if we're keeping him around, then really there is no reason for him to lose to The Rock at WrestleMania. If anything, you want him to be victorious if you're going to be using him in an ongoing manner after WrestleMania. So I don't think an Austin Rock match at WrestleMania is the way to go. I think you've got to find another alternative. And and I've been racking my brain for ages as to what that alternative might be, because I'm not sure that there's anything else at WrestleMania that you could get rid of to put The Rock in, like someone that you could put The Rock against that, it's warranted. Like you're not gonna put Austin straight into a title match in his first match back. Ain't gonna happen. So he's not wrestling either Triple H for the Raw title, or he's not going to take the spot of either Angle or Brock for SmackDown. In fact, you want that Brock Angle match that's been built, for pretty well 12 months or for 6 months at least. So you're not facing Hunter. You're not going to put him against Booker T. You're really not going to want to put him against Jericho or Michaels, because that match, that was the perfect match for those two guys. He doesn't face Undertaker because Undertaker's a good guy. And herein lies the thing. And then you're left with everyone else is really not at Austin's level. So I was racking my brain. I was thinking, look, the one option you might have is maybe you put him against Scott Steiner. You turn Scott Steiner heel the night after he's lost to Hunter and in that No Way Out, and you have him face Scott Steiner. But even then, I don't think that's the direction, because Steiner had absolutely bombed and nosedived since he joined. So I actually like that idea you've just put forward of hold the match off until WrestleMania. Maybe at No Way Out you do, instead of the Austin Bischoff fight, you have like one of the talk show segments. Maybe Jericho hosts a
highlight reel,
or something, and Bischoff comes out and they do the old impersonator gimmick where Bischoff says for the whole month, I'm gonna have him there, and perhaps you don't have the one stipulation you don't throw in is if he doesn't show up, you're fired. Although you could still have it there, because you have Bischoff turn up. He goes on to a talk show, or even he could just come out himself, and he announces, here's Steve Austin, and out comes a midget, an impersonator. It could be Dwayne Gill with his head shaved and looking, doing the Gilbert. Like, you do something that it's just the crowd are going to moan, everyone's going to be, Bischoff is just, it hasn't worked, and Bischoff makes out that he's, this is Austin, and the impersonator spouts off Austin lines, and Bischoff pushes him around and pretends to have a match with him and is easily beating him, and halfway through it the glass shatters and Austin just comes storming out and Bischoff bails and Austin beats the impersonator up, and that gets you Austin back in, and then perhaps McMahon books the match. Bischoff, you ran, you hid, you whatever. And Austin's like, I was away all this time, but Bischoff, you and I, what you did to me goes back to 1994. It goes back to how you fired me. I hate you, Bischoff, and you're running the show now. Ain't going to happen. I'm coming back, putting you in your place. And they meet at WrestleMania. I think that is probably the best option.
I agree. Yeah, I think so too. Because again, we can't have Austin Rock, because with Austin sticking around, that match makes no sense, and Austin losing makes no sense. So, we're not going to book The Rock in anything, because that's not our job tonight. But we obviously can put The Rock somewhere else, or he just doesn't come back, at that moment. So, but we're not going to. We rebooked 2003. We don't want to do it again. We rebooked 2000, and for those that haven't listened to that, please do. Dave and I did a great three-part series last year on rebooking all of 2003. We just changed the booking based on who was in the company. So when we did that one, Austin was gone. He retired after WrestleMania 19. He didn't stay. We didn't do that. All we did was change the booking of guys that were there. We didn't fantasy book a new roster. So that's why this is different than that, because what we did there, Austin never came back. We just booked who was there and just changed it. And I think you'll like it. So go back into the archives of the show, either on Podbean or any of your podcast catchers. And I think it was August. It was August, October, and November, those episodes. Because September or was it July, September?
July, August, October, November. And I think September was because the Hogan,
right.
With the throw in the Hogan.
Speaking of Hogan, yeah. So it was July, September, and October of last year. August, because August we did our special Hogan episode because of course he passed away. Anyway,
but having said all that, I'll throw it out there now. I know we're not doing it. I don't want to go any further than this. But heel Rock, Hollywood Rock he could face the Undertaker. And then the Undertaker doesn't have to deal with his crap that he had.
Oh, jeez. So, I kind of dig that. That's actually great, Dave. We bail Taker out of that Big Show, A-Train, Nathan Jones slop. And we give Rock and we get a Rock Taker match at WrestleMania that never happened.
Yeah.
He didn't wrestle Austin at WrestleMania, and he never wrestled Rock at WrestleMania. So, all right. So he wrestles Bischoff at WrestleMania.
And it could almost be promoted a little bit as like getting Austin gets his contract. Austin gets a full-time contract. Austin's sort of, maybe it's Bischoff saying I can get him, and then when Austin turns up at No Way Out, then Bischoff starts saying, well, you're not under contract, you can't be here. And when Austin tries to show up, he gets arrested. Get him out of here, he's not under contract. And so the match against Bischoff becomes for Austin's contract with Raw. He gets his full-time contract if he beats Bischoff.
Right. And so that happens. I think Bischoff and Austin have an extended match. It's not a mega squash. I think you can utilize, maybe Austin's a little rusty. He hasn't wrestled since pretty much May of 2002. So he's a little rusty. I
think you're also utilizing run-ins. You've got to have undercard Raw heels running.
Oh yeah, if we're doing, honestly, Dave, if this is the epilogue of the Attitude Era, you empty the cabinet. You literally kitchen sink and all. If this is the last time we're going to see classic, Attitude Era wrestling at this point with the king of the Attitude Era, empty the cupboard. Just empty it all. And run-ins and beers and stunners and all sorts of crazy stuff.
I mean, looking at guys that aren't on the WrestleMania card. I mean, you could even have run-ins from guys like, you want heels, so you might be sending in. I'm just trying to have a look at who's on the undercard of Raw at the time and not really on the show. You're probably you're looking at those lower end scrubs. You're looking at tag team guys. You're looking at, I don't know. I mean, it really is hard. Was it like your Mark Jindrak's and your Rodney Macks and your guys that, Christopher Nowinski's, the guys that really, they're all at the lower end of the card, but you've just got to get them on them. And you need fodder that they run in. Austin goes to pin, and these guys run in, and then Austin has to stun them and get them out until he finds it, just to drag it out.
Yeah, no, I agree. So with that happening, Austin gets the win. So the next night on Raw, Triple H is the world champion because that's not changing. We're not going. If you remember in our old thing, we had RVD and all that. That's a different universe. So Triple H is the champion. He beats he beats Booker T after pedigreeing him and then pinning him 13 hours after he did it. So the next night on Raw, Bischoff comes out, says, all right, Austin kicked my ass. What am I going to do? I still run this show. So if anybody else in this roster thinks they've got, you know, they're like Steve Austin. You're not. So we need a number one contender for Backlash for Triple H's World Heavyweight Championship. So here's the thing. We begin. Here's where the story may diverge, Dave, and I'll put this in your lap. Do we immediately start working Austin into a world title situation, or do we kind of give him some other things to do for a few months, maybe wait until maybe after SummerSlam, work out some other guys, and then intricate Stone Cold into the mix or put him on something else? I have an idea for him for SummerSlam. I think you might like it. But when we get there, we'll get there. I have an idea for SummerSlam because the match I want would not fit anywhere else. Okay. So I'm going to put the ball in your court. It's the night after Raw. Let's assume that Bischoff comes out and says we need a number one contender for Triple H's World Heavyweight Championship at Backlash in Worcester. What should we do?
Well, I think before we jump too deep in, I think the one thing that really causes tension with any booking you want to do with Austin and any run at the world title is the fact that the night after WrestleMania 19 is also the debut of Goldberg. And what you've got to start to think about is you're going to have Goldberg and Austin both on the same show. What's the destination for them? Now, I want to go online. I don't think that they would be considering. They've got Austin as their big baby face. They're not going to turn him heel. They're bringing Goldberg in as a baby face. You can't bring him in any other way. And I don't think Goldberg would ever work in WWE as a heel. So he's got to stay babyface. So then it becomes do you do the slow build for Goldberg to the title? And that whole storyline can almost stay the way it is. And if so, does Austin get a title run before then or not? Now, I think an argument could be made. Would have no problem with Austin basically coming out with, right, I'm back. I deserve to be the number one contender. When I left, I was the top guy, and everyone was running from me. Triple H, you could even harken back to Triple H. The only reason you have the title is because I wasn't here. You've done everything you could to get me out of the business for so long. So perhaps that interim between WrestleMania and SummerSlam becomes Austin targeting Hunter. And he wants the title from, he wants those title shots. But now Hunter's got evolution with him. He's got flair at the moment, and you could run a couple of you could do a number one contenders match on Raw, or you could even build it to Bischoff saying, "Well, you're not the number one contender. You've got to earn that right." And so perhaps Backlash is a number one contenders match. Perhaps at Backlash, Austin is wrestling, whether it be Chris Jericho or Shawn Michaels or Kevin Nash, and maybe you make it Kevin Nash. Nash is brought back in, but he's brought back as the heel. This is the match we didn't get before, 12 months earlier. But you're doing this as the number one contender. The winner of this match will face Triple H for the title, because you could do the whole Nash doesn't like Austin, but he doesn't like Hunter. Hunter's scared of both of them. So while Nash could be played as the heel, he could still be legitimately seen as, well, if he beats Austin, he and Hunter could have a match and that works. So perhaps that's your starting point. You build that, have a number one contenders match at Backlash. Austin wins. And then for the next couple of months, he's up against Hunter. And each time he faces Hunter, he gets screwed out. Like at the first time Hunter does the run. Like Austin's winning. Flair pulls him out of the ring, and they take the count out, and they walk to the back, and Austin wins by count out, and then maybe they get the return. That would be sort of, they go after Backlash. They go into the two things. So perhaps at Bad Blood, they have a match at Bad Blood where Austin has the match won, but something happens to prevent him actually winning the title. So you could have a couple of matches on Raw where Hunter gets saved by Flair, and then a returning Orton in another one. So Evolution are being put back together, and they're costing Austin these matches. But then at Bad Blood, which is the first Raw only pay-per-view, you've got Austin versus Hunter. No disqualification, no count out. Like there's, it's, false count anywhere. It could be. I don't want it in the cell, but that big stipulation match that still opens the door for some form of interference. And if you've got an idea for SummerSlam, perhaps that might play into the outcome of why Austin doesn't win the title. But I'm wondering if that's the way to go. Austin straight into the title picture, but you're not putting the belt on him so that you can then build to Goldberg versus Triple H from SummerSlam moving forward.
Correct. So I like that. That's a good way to kind of, Austin stays in the top picture, but doesn't win the belt. We got to keep Triple H a strong heel.
Doesn't win the belt yet.
Yet, of course.
Yeah.
Backlash wrestles Triple H, schmaz. Judgment Day, schmaz. At Bad Blood,
Judgment Day is a SmackDown only pay-per-view, so that's the blow-off match.
Oh, you're right.
The blow-off match is the Bad Blood match.
No, it's not. The brand onlys started at Bad Blood. SmackDown's first pay-per-view is Vengeance.
Oh, okay. All right. So Backlash, he wins a number one contenders match, either against Kevin Nash or a four-way match. Nash,
right.
Booker T, RVD,
right.
Austin wins the number one contender match at Backlash.
At Backlash.
Judgment Day is still a full Judgment show. Day, it's a normal match, and Hunter's beat, and Flair pulls him out of the ring, or maybe a returning Orton. Flair and Orton, they pull Hunter out of the ring right after the stunner, and they drag him up the aisle, and Austin wins by countout. And everyone's booing the outcome, but the title stays on Hunter. Hunter is clearly beat. He's been stunned. Maybe the ref's down. He gets stunned. Austin's got the cover. The ref's doing the really slow 1, 2. Yep. Hunter is not going to kick out, but at 2, either they, Hunter and Orton, who's probably returning by this point, pull Hunter out of the ring from underneath Austin, and the ref calls for the bell, either DQs or counts them out, and there's your no finish, and then they go to Bad Blood for the blow off, or no DQ, no count out, all bells and whistles, and something needs to happen here. I'll let you get back to where you were going, because I think you were going to pick up on perhaps what your SummerSlam idea might be and how that would fit into the Bad Blood outcome. I guess it depends on what your SummerSlam idea is.
Yes. Well, you want my SummerSlam? I'll give it. All right, let's work backwards then. Yeah. Let me ask you this before I give my idea. Is Austin involved in any title match at SummerSlam in your plan? No
title match at SummerSlam.
Good. Because Austin we need a rematch that we never got in the Prime Universe. A match that both guys, when they wrestled, thought it could have been better, but there was a lot of circumstances going on. I think you know where I'm going. At some point, we need a match between Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels.
Oh.
I think at some point in the summertime, Shawn, it's better if Shawn approaches Stone Cold than the other way around, because Stone Cold doesn't go approaching people.
No.
So at some point in July, because July is the SmackDown pay-per-view. That's Vengeance is SmackDown's, so they got their own stuff going on.
Yeah.
At some point after Bad Blood, we get into the into the hilt of summer as we go towards SummerSlam in Phoenix, and Shawn Michaels there's a segment. Austin's running down Triple H. I've never won the big gold belt in WCW. I'm winning it here in the WWE. Shawn Michaels comes out and says, Stone Cold, first off, you may not think this, but I'm glad you're back. If you recall, the last time we were together active in this company, it was kind of a shit show. More specifically, I was a shit show. I did not give you the respect you deserved that night in Boston 5 years ago. I was an asshole. Everybody knew it, except me. Give me another chance. Give me an opportunity for you and I to put on a masterpiece. I know that night you wanted to be at your best, and I tried to be at my best, but my body just kept giving me the finger. So, at SummerSlam, in Phoenix, give me that shot to give you the match you deserved. And who knows? Maybe I get my win back. What do you say? He'll say, look, I hate Triple H just as much as you do. We'll both get our chance. But for now, let's talk history. You deserve a better match than you got that night in Boston. Let me give it to you. What do you think?
I like the match at SummerSlam. I think it's a great idea. Let me. What if that conversation happened just a little bit earlier, though? What if that conversation happened perhaps backstage to start with? Like, Austin and Hunter has been booked for Bad Blood, and we see maybe in the preceding weeks, Sean's been on a roll. He's been winning match after match, and Bischoff being Bischoff, like, because we can mix storylines together here. Sean starts going, look, maybe, Sean starts politicking on TV for a title match. I deserve a title match too. I've been winning all my matches. I beat Jericho at WrestleMania. I've been winning everything you've put me into. I want a shot. And Bischoff is going, I've got enough headaches with Austin and Goldberg, and I don't have time for you, Sean. And so you're getting these brush offs. And so Sean approaches, so you get these backstage segments where maybe, Hunter's preparing for a match on Raw, and Flair's with him, and Sean barges into the dressing room and goes, we go way back, but listen, you and I, we've had our dealings. You know what I can do. You win this match. If you beat Austin at Bad Blood, I want a shot. You owe me that. You can play into that.
Sure.
And then you get the storyline that you give with Austin. You get the Austin, you and I never had that match. If you beat Hunter at Bad Blood, how about I get the first shot at SummerSlam? And Austin might even say, Austin might be trying, I'm not looking past him or whatever, but Sean puts a bit of pressure on him. They're in front of the crowd, and the crowd are chanting, yes, Austin Michael. They're chanting something that gives you the idea that they'd love to see it. And so Austin almost sort of goes, fine. If I beat Hunter, I'll consider it. but I've already beaten you once. Like, there's just sort of Austin being Austin. There's just that sort of like that, highlighting that Austin thinks he's still the best. Then you get to Bad Blood. You've got I've just thought of how you could bring this in to set up a little bit more, but keep everyone because I think Sean would still have to be a baby face. All the chaos is happening at Bad Blood. The referee is out. Flair's come in the ring. Randy Orton's back. He's in the ring. Austin's trying to fight everyone else off. And maybe in the week before Bad Blood, Hunter and Sean have had there's been an issue in the ring. They've had a big brawl just for whatever reason. They've ended up brawling. So out comes, there's all sorts of chaos happening in the ring. And Shawn Michaels comes out with this idea of he's coming to even the score. Austin is down 3-4 on 1. Everyone's taking down Austin and Shawn runs out. Sean starts cleaning it, guys out of the ring, tosses Flair out, tosses Orton out, and he turns and sees Hunter, and he goes to super kick Hunter, and Hunter ducks, and Austin gets hit. And Austin goes down. Hunter sort of falls on top of him as the ref recovers, and he counts to 3. And Sean realizes what he's done. He's cost Austin the match. So then you can come back like Austin, like Michaels is apologetic to Austin. I'm really sorry about that. And Austin's like, you cost me. And maybe even Austin stuns him just because he's Austin. And then you can build into the whole, let's have this match at SummerSlam. I'm going to give you the match we didn't get back then. Yes, I was in a bad place, but you want the little bit of the arrogance in there as well. I was in a bad place back then. That's why you beat me, Steve. I'm not in that place anymore. I'm in a better place now. You're not, but you won't beat me this time. So,
I like that. I like that.
So you keep it. You keep Sean as a babyface. You don't turn him heel with even the super kick on Austin. It is an accident, and Sean's tried to be apologetic. And Austin, like Sean's like, I'm really sorry, but look, Steve comes out. Look, you cost me all that. You want that, if you want a match with me, all you had to do, I would have given you the match. You didn't have to kick me, and Sean can be like, I'm really sorry, blah, 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 blah. They agree. Like you said, Sean does the whole, I wasn't at my best. You're going to get my best this time. And, and then from there, just each week, it just becomes Austin flips him off and dumps him with a stunner. And so the next week, you might have him on verbal battling on, with Jericho on the show and Austin hits him with the super kick this time. So each week they're going, then 1 week they're tag team partners and they can't get along, but they're pushing each other and one of them attacks the other one, whatever. But you're doing it each week where it's clear they can't work together, but this is a respect match at SummerSlam. They're not going heel. And yes, I love it. Austin and Sean at SummerSlam. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like I said, Sean could, once in a while, Sean says things. The fans let it slide. When it comes to Sean, the thing with Sean, Dave, that's awesome is Sean can just say whatever he wants. Fans are going to eat it up however and he could say, Stone Cold, Steve, let me tell you something. You may have thought it was easy when you walked into Boston, stunned me. I had to take a shot in the mush from Mike Tyson, and you just took this company that I had to drag on my ass for 3 years. You got it handed to you on a silver platter because I had to leave.
Mm.
If I was sticking around in 1998, maybe your life wouldn't have been that easy. I'm not trying to be a jerk, Steve, but let's be honest. You didn't have to deal with me. I was gone. You got his company handed to you when I had to be handed a pile of shit 3 years before that. Like he could be, and you owe me. You may not think you do, but you owe me.
Mm.
And it's a psychology thing. Like we got to that point in 2003 too, Dave, where again, with Shawn Michaels, it's very easy to kind of split hairs in storyline because Shawn, unlike, we're not talking like when he super kicked Hogan in 2005. Anything Shawn says always means something, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. It's always something of meaning. And he could say, listen, I'm not here to shit in your cornflakes, Steve, but you had it easy. By the time you took over, ratings were already great. WCW was only on top for 2 more weeks. I had to drag this company when WCW was kicking our ass. You got them when they sucked. You got them when they imploded. You may have won the war, but I gave you the weapons to do it. You owe me.
Like that. Yeah.
You owe me. They could go deep into the Monday Night War weeds. How do you think I felt in 96 and 97? You had it easy. You were trolling around the mid-card, wrestling. He could be kind of a dick. You were wrestling Savio Vega and, all these other Gold Dust and all these other dregs. I was the one having to wrestle Vader and
if you just because of where their relationship was at the time, that's I could picture Michaels going, you were wrestling all these undercard guys like Gold Dust and Savio Vega and Bret the Hitman Hart, like you could just
that would be fantastic. Oh God. That's great. That's so great. I had to wrestle Sid. You didn't have to wrestle Sid. I had to wrestle Sid.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we get to SummerSlam, and Goldberg. Do we still do the chamber?
Oh, look, I think if we're going to have Austin Michaels, I'm not sure the chamber could go ahead and because Shawn wasn't in the chamber, was he? The first one. He was in the second one. Was he in the first one?
Yeah, he won in the first one. That's when he won the belt. You're talking about the one?
No. Sorry, the second one, the SummerSlam one. Shawn wasn't in the SummerSlam one. He was. Okay, because then
it was Shawn.
I know Randy was in it. Goldberg,
Shawn, Randy, Nash, Jericho,
Hunter and
Goldberg.
Yeah. So I guess that the question comes, if you're taking Michaels out of the chamber, is there a worthy replacement to put in the chamber to allow it to go ahead? Because I think we're running the idea that for the most part, the Goldberg storyline is still going to be the Goldberg storyline at the moment until we do anything different. So I think we're running the idea of they want the Goldberg Hunter storyline going. Hunter's got his little groin issue, so maybe they still run the chamber, but Michaels isn't in it, and you're putting someone like RVD or Kane in the chamber, just
or Booker or somebody, right? Yep.
Yeah,
that's fine. Whoever wins that match is irrelevant. Neither of them have to win. Shawn doesn't have to win. Steve doesn't have to win. It doesn't matter.
I think it doesn't matter. I think with where I think Austin's trajectory needs to go. The fact that he's just lost, he's gone 2 pay-per-views where he hasn't won, or he won by count out and then he didn't. Then he lost. I think you probably want to put Austin over.
Yeah, and at this point in Shawn's career, he doesn't give a shit. He just wants 5-star matches. He don't care whether he wins or loses. So
and while they're both bulletproof, I think Michaels is more long-term bulletproof, like because the way his character has been developed coming back from the injury, he can take a loss and it wouldn't matter. I think Austin losing at this point might still be an issue.
Yeah. No, that works for me. I'm good with that. Yep.
But partly because where I think the storyline could go afterwards, I think where Austin's journey can go after SummerSlam, probably you want him to have had, he needs to have won at SummerSlam.
Right. Okay. So we established that Triple H. Do we keep the Chamber result the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Hunter Goldberg storyline can keep running its course at the moment because I don't see them crossing paths anytime in the short term.
Gotcha.
So
all right.
Yeah.
So we move ahead to Raw has the pay-per-view the following month. So we're looking at Unforgiven in Hershey.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is what I would do coming out of. This is where you need to sort of get a little bit of a buffer. We've got Austin out of the title picture now. We need to keep him prominent and relevant without pushing him down the card and making him feel like he's being pushed down the card. So what I think you could do is this. I think the match that I want to do is Austin and Chris Jericho. That's the match I think you do next. Because Jericho's sort of the only other main event heel on the Raw side of things. And you need someone for Austin to face that's credible. I think Jericho fits that. And I think what you could do to build it is you could play into some of the storyline elements they did in True to Life, which is the whole, I think Bischoff. So during the way I build it is this: during the Michaels build to SummerSlam, you get these matches, you get these moments like Austin is stunning Shawn, and maybe he stunners Jericho on the show as well, like just because that's who he is. And Bischoff comes out before SummerSlam and does the ultimatum. Steve, you can't keep just stunning people left and right. So from now on, you cannot stun people unless you're either in a match or you're physically provoked. Otherwise, you're going to be fired. Maybe it's not even Bischoff. Maybe it's Vince who comes out or Linda who comes out. But I prefer it to be Bischoff because you get this idea of Austin can't just go around stunning people. And then you could start to play into what they used to do with Jericho on the house show Second Titantron. Jericho could have Austin out as his guest after SummerSlam. Austin is the very first Raw after SummerSlam. Jericho has him as his guest on the show. And Austin comes out and Jericho is verbally taunting him and reminding him, you can't touch me. You can't stun me unless you're physically provoked. And you get that moment right at the end where Jericho thinks he's got one over and he pats Austin on the shoulder. And the big grin, the crowd goes wild. Austin drops him with the stunner. And then you could have, the whole, Jericho wants the match with Austin as a result. He goes to Bischoff. He asks for the match. And each week you get that similar sort of storyline. Jericho baiting Austin. Austin can't do anything. You can see he's holding back. Maybe one week Jericho doesn't do anything to Austin, and you just got Austin annoyed that he can't touch him. And then the following week, Jericho pats him on the back, bumps into him accidentally, gets pushed into him by someone,
right?
And Austin can go to town. And it all builds to the match a match between Jericho and Austin at the next pay-per-view.
Perfect. I like that. I like Bischoff doing it. I agree with you. I feel like because Vince is obviously doing more on SmackDown at that moment. He's in the storyline with him and Big Show and Sable and our pal Zach Gowen and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
I don't want Vince and Austin talking because we don't need to. Because I really want my goal when we were going to do this month. I really want everything to be fresh, and him and Vince is not fresh. So
that's right.
So I agree. I think Bischoff, because Bischoff's an asshole anyway, so works perfectly.
But at the same time, that storyline presents the idea of Bischoff is trying to keep, there's the recognition. Austin is Austin. Austin runs in and stuns people. Austin does that as a babyface because he's Austin, and everyone wants to see it. So Bischoff is now pulling that away. he's pulling that. Bischoff takes that away from them, and Jericho is trying to capitalize. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And you could even have right up on the night, right up to the moment, like Jericho comes to the ring and he's verbally giving it to Austin, and then Austin comes out. But before the ref can ring the bell to start the match, Jericho keeps stopping the ref from starting the match, and he's getting right up into Austin's face and saying something, and then the ref would go to start the match, and Jericho would stop him again. So he's prolonging how long the match actually starts until finally the moment that bell rings, or perhaps he starts to get into an argument with the referee. Jericho's in an argument with the referee, and the bell rings, and the look on Jericho's face is, "Oh no!" And Austin just absolutely assaults him. And I just think it would be a fun little storyline. So
yeah, I agree. I like that. That's cool. I like that.
And Austin wins the match.
Right. Of course. Yep. Then we have another gap because No Mercy is the SmackDown show, which leads us to Survivor Series.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we all know what happened in the Prime Universe. We had Team Austin versus Team Bischoff, and the result was Bischoff's team won because of Batista, and Triple H, Austin had to give up half of his role as GM. Well, obviously, we're not in those roles, but do we still do an Team Bischoff match?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think Austin's in the match. Okay, and Austin can be Austin's going to be the captain. I mean, what was Goldberg doing at that event? He was in another match against Hunter.
He was defending the title against Goldberg, against Triple H. He was in the title. He was the champion, so he was in the title match.
Yeah. So I think Austin is the captain of one of the teams. And maybe Bischoff is putting together a team to take on. Maybe it is still Austin versus Bischoff. We're still playing into the whole Jericho maybe is the de facto captain, but you continue this storyline out of that we've just done with Austin can't touch people, and without unless he's provoked, and maybe it is. Austin gets Bischoff to agree that if Austin's team wins at Survivor Series, that stipulation is thrown away, and Austin can do whatever he wants to whoever he wants, whenever he wants.
Right.
And so Bischoff puts together his team, but Austin's in the match. So I think Bischoff's team is probably going to be very similar to what we got, because we don't have we've got, like I said, Goldberg and Hunter are in the main event with the title on the line. So I think you've got guys so Jericho's going to be a captain. He's probably going to have Christian with him. Randy Orton needs to be in the match, and Batista's back by now, isn't he? When did Batista return to action?
That night. Well, no, before that, because he came back in October because he cashed in on the bounty.
Right. Yeah.
So he was back in October.
I think Batista needs to be in the match. I just like the idea of the Evolution guys in the match. Maybe even Flair. You could have sort of Flair Evolution with Jericho and Christian versus a team that Austin has put together, with Booker T and maybe RVD and Shawn. Maybe the first person Austin recruits is Shawn Michaels, based on that they go back to SummerSlam. It's behind. We had the match, but look, do you reckon you can stand beside me in this one? Do you reckon you can be my teammate now? And Shawn agrees. But I think what I'd like to do, I actually picture. We know, we said it before, Austin likes to elevate people if they're the right people. What if it's Survivor Series, Austin is the last man for his team, and he gets pinned by Orton, and he goes into a storyline with Orton, which is the whole legend killer gimmick being developed for Orton, but Austin becomes that key crux of the storyline of Orton pinned Austin at Survivor Series. Or Orton starts claiming he's the legend killer. I beat the legend. And coming out of Survivor Series, you have this little storyline now until Royal, like for the post Survivor Series for Armageddon, you have Austin and Orton going one-on-one at Armageddon.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's great, actually, because Austin probably had respect for his dad, and I think it would push. Orton to be more mature. I think it pushes Austin to push himself to match up with these younger guys. And I think a match like that would be big for him, for both of them. So I like that. I think it elevates.
Yeah. And I think the way you played at Survivor Series, I think Austin is the last man pinned by Orton. Orton gets the win. Now, look, it could be 2 or 3 people still on Orton's team. Orton doesn't have to be a sole survivor. And Bischoff's out there as well. So Austin could succumb to odds, or it could be a fluke, or Orton gets an RKO out of nowhere and surprises everyone. It could be as clean as anything. That's not the issue. The story is that Orton got the pin in the Survivor Series match, and maybe Austin was like the last one left and had to beat 2 other guys, and he's exhausted, and Orton takes advantage and gets the win. Doesn't matter. Bischoff gets in the ring, and he's congratulating Orton, and Orton's being arrogant and got his arms up and all that. And Austin's still on the ground, and perhaps Bischoff can grab the mic and be going on about the fact that Austin, this stipulation's still in effect now. Austin, you can't touch anyone now unless it's either a match or you're physically provoked. No more. That's a permanent deal. And in the process of doing that and laughing at him, so that Austin can get a bit of heat back, Bischoff touches Austin, pushes him, taps him on the arm like, we gotcha. And Austin just turns around and drops Bischoff with the stunner. Physically provoked. You got me. And maybe Orton sees this and he shoves Austin away, so Austin can drop Orton as well. So while Orton's won the match, Austin still leaves with his head raised and his music going because he dropped them both with stunners because they touched him after the match.
Right.
And then you can just build. Orton can just be after that. It's I beat Austin on Raw. I beat Austin. I'm this great guy. Austin can come out and be challenged, and say stuff, and Orton can really run the whole. Orton doesn't want to even touch Austin before the match at Armageddon, but Orton is being very arrogant. And even in a couple of other matches, he beats some other, he builds that legend killer gimmick by beating a couple of other guys on Raw. But this whole build to Armageddon becomes Orton, I beat Austin at Survivor Series. I'm the legend killer. I'm on this trajectory. I'm the man. You're just a young punk. Who do you think you are? I've beaten more guys up like you than I've had more beers that are stronger than you, or
right.
something like that. And when they're one-on-one, I think, look, you can have Evolution, you could have Flair and Batista all interfere, but I think Austin still wins that match. But Orton looks damn good in the match. Like Orton really is made to look $1 million in that match, and Austin's got to work for the win. But he still comes away with the win in the end.
Sure. Yep. That's a good one. I applaud you for that one, Dave, because that's a little tricky, because you don't want to bury Orton, because in the Prime universe he wins the Intercontinental title, which in our universe he could do down the line somewhere else.
Yeah.
If that happens, obviously, Austin's still looking pretty hot, and we're heading into the Royal Rumble. We're heading into 2004. SmackDown's doing its thing. Brock is the bad guy champion, of course, at that time, and Eddie's starting to elevate. We're going to leave that alone. So we get into 2004 on the Raw side, and we're working towards the Royal Rumble. We obviously in this universe right now, we're not even talking about Chris Benoit. So
I think the question we need to ask ourselves, because when you enter Royal Rumble season, everything's building to WrestleMania, and so it comes down to, what do we want Austin doing at Mania? Now, I've got an idea. There's a very obvious option that is like a slam dunk option that is available. I think there's another option that that I think would actually be quite good based on some other stuff. I don't know if you've got a third option up your sleeve. Had you had any thoughts about where you see Austin at Mania?
Yeah, I think we can't. I think this is easy. I feel like we need, again, we have all of these opportunities for matches that can be told, that the story's being told from what happened during the Monday Night Wars. I feel like we need to have Austin and Goldberg.
Okay.
And I think Goldberg should be the champion. I don't want to say he's a heel. I mean, obviously he's going to get booed, because when you're facing, when it's the faces of the two companies during the Attitude Era, obviously Austin's going to get the cheers. So if we don't mind, if Goldberg doesn't care being a bad guy, I think what you do is Goldberg starts needling. Well, let's do the Royal Rumble first.
Does it? Okay. Well, let's do this storyline first, and then I'll give you an alternate storyline.
Okay.
As another option. Okay. But I think if Goldberg, I like that. That was option A. To me, that's slam dunk number one.
Okay.
Austin and Goldberg for the title at WrestleMania. Goldberg doesn't need to be a heel, because Austin can win the Rumble to get the shot. And so we know that Goldberg's going to get booed when he's in the ring with Austin, but you don't need to change anything about his character to do it. It can just be, I'm the champ, I'm better. During the Monday, and the needling can be, play back to the Monday Night Wars. I had this massive run. I was WCW champion. Well, I was the one that stopped you from getting the ratings earlier. It was because of me as champion, Goldberg saying, and Austin saying, well, no, I was the one that, I was the better champion. So it could all be about who was better and who's better now. I mean, that to me becomes a very easy one, and you just have Austin win the Rumble to get that shot. And that way, Goldberg doesn't have to change who he is. The crowd can choose who they want to cheer or boo. We all know who they're going to do that for. But I don't think Goldberg's got the in-ring ability to carry a match as a heel. So he's got to go in as Goldberg always has been, to into that Mania match. And Austin's probably going to do a little bit more of the heel in-ring work, because Goldberg can't do that. But because Austin will need to call the match and Austin will need to run the show, but Austin's still going to be getting cheered and Austin will come out as the win. So I think you just do it straight out. Austin wins the Rumble and your path to Mania, and maybe even what's the after that Rumble? What is it? What's who has the No Way Out? The No Way Out
is SmackDown.
So you could have them team up on Raw a couple of times, and you could have them in each other's faces, and you could have a contract signing, and you could have them on Jericho's show, and you can have all sorts of, you could do video tributes and all sorts of things in the build-up, going back over the history. You can have interviews with guys from, who were in WCW at the time saying Goldberg's going to win the match because, he was the man, and, you can get into that. You can have all the WWF guys going, no, Austin's going to win, and, that it's just a straight natural build.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah, I like that idea because I think we need because this build needs to be huge. 20 years, MSG. You got to help. You got to help the card. Yeah, I like that idea.
And I think that's the clear cut one. Let me give you a second option for Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Just another option. Because you're talking about WrestleMania is that big match where they could do things that they didn't have to stick to Raw only, and it was, you could have some into promotion, brand matches, and you could play around a little bit more. What if WrestleMania is where you did the Brock Lesnar match that never happened before King of the Ring, and you could play back to that whole storyline, and this is where you could bring Vince into it, because Vince goes, that you as that match gets built, part of the build becomes Vince saying, I wanted this match 2 years ago or 12 months ago, and you ran away. Or even Lesnar could be saying this
Right.
match was supposed to happen 2 years ago, or 12 months ago, you ran away. You're scared of me, Austin. You're scared to face me. And you could build it that way. And so the way you would build that is, you can keep the SmackDown story the way it went. Eddie, you take the belt off Brock at No Way Out by losing to Eddie. Austin can be the one who interferes, because during the Royal Rumble, Lesnar costs Austin the Royal Rumble match. Even maybe right at the very end, Austin looks like he's going to win it, and Brock comes in and costs him the match. Austin returns the favor at No Way Out, costs Brock the match, and then you build to Brock versus Austin at WrestleMania. There was another match you never got, but a match that would have, all the build up, you think, this could go either way. What do they want to do? Brock's the next big thing. And then, of course, you've got the other information that leaks out the weekend before Mania, which allows you the potential to change. The crowd are going to turn on Brock anyway. I mean, they're going to be booing Brock, but, it almost, you've got this Austin has to beat Brock now, and Austin has to win, and he's going to win clean with the stunner in the middle of the ring. Like, I actually think either match would work, and it saves you the chaos of the the Brock Goldberg match.
Oh yeah, that mess. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a fine option. Like I said, I think what we need to do and what the fans are going to want is Austin in a match with someone that he's never been in the ring with. And we've got this full, heavy roster of guys that Austin either A, has never faced, or B, when they were together in WCW, were probably mid-card. I'm sure Austin and Booker probably wrestled in tags or something when Harlem Heat was first starting, stuff like that, but stuff that's clearly forgettable.
Yeah.
So now you've got a roster of guys. So both options, I mean, and then Austin.
Both options are good. I think as I think about it a little bit more, though, I think the question, there are two things that need to be looked at here. Number one, you've had Austin in the company full time now for 12 months, and he had a couple of early title shots against Hunter, which he really hasn't been in the title picture since. And I think if you've got Austin full time, you probably want to be putting the title back on him at some point. And I think that's the big thing. The second thing coming out of it is Goldberg's leaving, so you've got to get the belt off him. And he who shall not be named is not winning Royal Rumbles in any of our universes.
Uh-huh.
And so really, you take that individual out of the mix. Then the question comes: what are you doing on Raw after WrestleMania? You know, is the belt back on Hunter and you're back where you were? Do you put the belt on Shawn, which that could be fine as well, but Shawn doesn't need it. I actually think in the end, the better option for Raw moving forward out of WrestleMania is for Austin to have the title.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you can move some guys around, bring some guys over from SmackDown. You can elevate a couple of guys up for title shots, to try and see, can they cut it if they step up a level. You can build up Evolution a bit more. Randy Orton can come back with, I beat you last year, I deserve a title shot. You can put, you can allow Evolution to continue to build up with Austin being the champ. I think I think that's probably the better option in the end, is to have Austin win the title. I just thought the Brock Lesnar match just it was another option that I thought could work, but I think the Goldberg match is probably the better way to go.
Yeah, Goldberg, in both cases, like I'm looking at it, if you're looking at it storyline wise, creatively, the storytelling, both cases, Dave, are completely valid. If you go with Goldberg and Stone Cold, you look at each other and go, Goldberg can, and obviously Goldberg, they're both going to lean in his heels. Goldberg can go, listen, you could sit here and talk about the Monday Night War and WCW going under and yada, yada. But the fact remains, Steve, is this company had no faith in you anymore. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
Oh, I like that.
And I'm the one with the gold belt, not you. This isn't you could say this isn't 1999 where you think you can call the shots now. No. I'm the one with this belt now. I'm the champion. So when it comes down to it, Steve, in the war between you and I at WrestleMania, I'll win. And you'll always be number 2. Really get in his head. Really get in his head. And with Brock, it could be a little more aggressive. Like, you're the problem. You're the problem with this company. Everybody, all the old guys get protected. Nobody gets elevated. All you needed to do was face me, Steve. I would have kicked your ass anyway. Why not just do it on TV? No, you had to cry and scold, blah, 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 blah. And you ran away from me like a bitch. Well, you can't run away from me now. And in Madison Square Garden, on the 20th anniversary, the biggest stage of all, I'm going to prove to everyone you're old and broken down. And it's my time now. And you can't run away from me. You can't take your ball and go home. You can't manipulate you and I, March 14th, Madison Square Garden. I'm finishing you. And you're going to go with the rest of the pile of broken down old war horses that I've already taken out in the last year or 2 years. So either way, we've got an amazing story. An amazing story.
I reckon I agree. Amazing story, but I'm just thinking with the Goldberg story, like you're saying, we're harkening back to some of the WCW stuff. This is where Bischoff could play into it as well, because all of a sudden it comes out, like you get this idea that Bischoff sort of subtly implies that since coming on as GM, he's been trying to rebuild WCW under Vince's nose. And look, Goldberg is the world champion. And maybe in the build-up, like in announcing one of the matches, Bischoff actually says Goldberg and Austin are going to face off for the WCW title. I mean, the world heavyweight title. Like he throws in these little jabs that sort of harkens back to this is still WCW versus WWE. And Goldberg and Austin are playing into that storyline. This is WCW versus WWE. And it really comes back to which is better. You're not just fighting to see which of you two is better, but really you're fighting to prove which company really was better, because you were the top, Bischoff could do it. Bischoff and Vince could be having a conversation. Which of, everyone argued which of the two companies was better, but the reality was when Austin and Goldberg were on top was when the war was at its absolute peak, and everyone wanted to know who would win. And everyone believed it would be whoever would win a match between Goldberg and Austin. And you've got Bischoff going, this is my chance. Goldberg, you can prove that WCW was the better company. And Austin is going to win the match, and Goldberg's contract is up. He can leave. He can lose and he can leave, and then it's Bischoff trying to pick up the pieces the next night on Raw. Oh, I never meant any of that, Steve. Oh, it's you misunderstood me. And they can just continue on with that story. But I think the history with WCW allows that Goldberg match to just take it to another level.
Mm-hmm.
Brock would be a better in-ring match.
Yes.
But I think there'd be more heat with a Goldberg. Even with Goldberg predominantly remaining babyface with subtle jabs, but it being a personal jab like I'm the better man. I'm a better champion than you. I was the better man back then. That's all just about personal pride. He doesn't have to be a heel to say all those things. He can be the babyface Goldberg to say all those things. But in the end, Austin claims the title and comes out of WrestleMania 20 as the world heavyweight champion. It all begins again.
Yeah. I do think Austin and Brock is a bankable match, but I think just for the history purposes, because fans will get into it, I think Austin Goldberg would be perfect. And yeah, I like your whole, you just put something in my head that I never thought of. Like Austin could go or Bischoff could go, Vince is really kind of dumb. He put me in this position, and look at this. I've got Goldberg. I've got, I guess was Scott Steiner still around? I guess he kind of was. I got Booker.
Well, if you look at WrestleMania 20, maybe you have things like Booker is, by the time you get to WrestleMania 20, maybe Booker's the Intercontinental Champion. And William Regal and Lance Storm hold you have all WCW guys holding the titles at WrestleMania. Like they're WWF guys now, but their history and their pedigree is from WCW. Like you could have, who was, Randy Orton was IC champ. So maybe not Orton, maybe not the IC title, but maybe the tag champions are some combination of ex-WCW guys. So Bischoff can be sitting there going, look, I've got Goldberg's the champion. My tag champions have got their pedigree in WCW. And maybe he could he could claim. And I was about to sign Randy Orton when this company fell through. I saw the true pedigree in Randy Orton before anyone else did. I made a deal with his dad that he was going to come to WCW. So you could but this whole thing that he's putting out I've been rebuilding WCW under your nose.
Yeah. And I think Goldberg. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, and Goldberg being the face of it, it's almost like we're doing it's almost like, and I have no problem with this, and I don't know if the fans even would either. It's almost like the invasion angle we should have got.
Yes.
The money players, the big players.
Bischoff can allude to it. Vince, you couldn't bring in the best that WCW had. I did.
Yeah. You didn't win the war. You didn't win the invasion. You lost. You beat a bunch of mid-carders. Like, he could be a real scumbag about it. You beat the Chavos. You beat the Billy Kidmans. Who's another? You beat the Mark Jindraks. Like, you beat all these scrubs 3 years ago. You didn't beat me, and you didn't beat Goldberg. You know, it took Austin, or it took all of the, you had to get him so pissed off at you, he had to run the alliance. Remember that, Steve?
Austin, yeah. Well, even Bischoff saying Austin wanted. I mean, you look this is how important or how good WCW really was. In the height of the invasion, Austin wanted to join WCW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it could be crazy. And of course, crazy.
And of course, Austin beats the crap out of Bischoff.
Yeah,
well.
exactly.
That's all fun. So, but I was thinking another element you could add into the WrestleMania night, when you're building you're building up, and maybe even the whole Bischoff stuff, and Austin's just so fed up of hearing it. The other thing that happens at WrestleMania 20 is you've got The Rock and Mick Foley against Evolution. So Rock's in the building, but he's back as a babyface. Maybe after his match against Evolution, you get a scene where Rock comes into Austin's dressing room, shakes his hand. Last year, Goldberg beat me, and it made me reflect and realize, a few things. But then he talks about how you could play with this whole Bischoff thing. He complained, Austin, you were the man. While you and I were, you and I had wars in the ring, but you were the man, and you were the reason why the WWF won. And so you could have Rock on WrestleMania night, bringing that culmination bit of this WCW element to it, hyping him up. You're the man. Now you go out there and you show everyone. And sort of, they shake hands again, and the crowd are cheering because, Rock and Austin are in the same picture together.
Right. And, and Bischoff could say things like, Vince, I know that you couldn't have Goldberg here in the company in 2001. So you had to have his lookalike be the face of your WCW. Really turn the screws,
Yeah.
Austin, you think you were just, during all those years, you were nothing more than a Goldberg knockoff. And now finally, the real thing is running this company just like he did 7 years ago.
Yeah. And with this whole story, like I said, Goldberg is never the one who's actually playing up these elements of the storyline. Like, Goldberg is getting the ring, and he's probably starting to get booed because everyone knows he's going to get booed, but he's still he's still wrestling other heels, and he's still like, you've got this thing, and maybe even on like the week before WrestleMania, you could even just sort of show that, hey, Goldberg's still a good guy, everyone, is Bischoff is doing this whole thing with Austin. Maybe he's got Austin and Bischoff. Maybe it's the contract signing, and they're signing the contracts, and Bischoff is just he's doing like you said, Vince is in the ring with them, and all these things that you were just saying that Bischoff is saying. He's saying that in front of Austin, in front of Bischoff. Austin can't touch anyone because he's not allowed. That's how he gets fired. That's because he lost at SummerSlam, a Survivor Series. But in the midst of all this, you could just see Goldberg seething at Bischoff, and Goldberg drops Bischoff with a spear. Like it's sort of, and stands over him, and it's like, you've made this all about you. This is about me and Austin, about who is the best. And then he turns to Austin and goes, and Austin, you're next. And off he goes. After it signs the contract and leaves the ring.
Right.
Just sort of to put that emphasis on there.
Why are we so good at this? I don't know. We're just so, man, if we could just change all the shells, and then ultimately Austin, one last time, Madison Square Garden, raises the belt high and leaves as the one thing he didn't win in WCW, the big gold belt, the World Heavyweight Championship. And, we can keep going. He holds it for a few months and drops it to somebody, and we move on. And then I think within the next year, maybe by 2000, maybe he goes 2 more years, but I think the latest he goes would be like 2006. And I think by then he'll be like, you know what, I'm good.
And I think the benefit is in 2005 you have the rise of Batista and Cena.
Yep.
And that's what Austin can sort of sit there and go, okay, the company's in good hands now. We've got guys that are ready to take on the role of the number one guy, and I can step back now.
And listen, the board can say, Vince can say, you know what, Steve, I gotta, we're in a different era now. I mean, ruthless aggression's nice, but the attitude era is over. We gotta ease back the middle fingers. I gotta ease back the beer and stuff. This isn't the company in 1997. This is very different now. And Austin can understand that and go, yeah, I get you. Why don't you take some time off and then and then yada yada yada. But I don't think he goes any further than say, than like 2006, the latest.
And then I think it's what we said before, and then he moves into I think when you hit 06, then we move into things like he's only doing like the big 4 occasionally. Like you've got someone that's built up that you need. That would an Austin match against that guy would be of value. So Austin's still around, but it's special appearances. Still in ring, but special appearances with probably possibly a once a year Mania match, but it's all that special thing to help elevate someone, or you've got a super big heel that you just need to have that baby face who's so over to make it real money match sort of thing. That's where Austin starts to sit into that role.
Right, exactly.
A role he could well play into probably the early 2010s. Like, I mean, if he's only wrestling occasionally, that's where you can get. He might eventually have a match against the heel Batista, and then you get the rise of Punk and Daniel Bryan, and Austin has a match against them at a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam or, a Royal Rumble. They do one of those things, or, they want, Punk at his peak in 2011, 2012, when he turns heel, it's not to take on The Rock or Cena. It's that they want Punk versus Austin. They want that big match that we never got. You can do that when Austin's still got enough to go once a year or a couple of times a year.
Right. If he's still healthy, he's just getting older. then yeah, he could be the one to to be the guy that gets the special matches. Maybe eventually we get Austin and Cena down the road.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the once in a lifetime, and Austin will go, "You're only getting one." So
there it is. Then it becomes once in a lifetime, because then Cena can wrestle Rock the next year, and that's only a once in a lifetime too.
Exactly. And Cena, and since there won't be any sequels and neither guy will need to win belts, Cena would just win both, like he probably should have. Any event. Wow, Dave, I think that was awesome. What a journey. I think we once again, I feel like you and I just love, I think yours and my favorite hobby is fixing 2003. I feel like we fix 2003 all the time. I feel like we constantly fix 2003. So let us know what you think. I think we did a good job of legitimately making it better. Obviously, giving Austin a good run, getting matches we've all begged for that never got. I think people would love to see a second match between Shawn and Steve that never happened. Triple H doesn't have to job to him. And I mean, he doesn't have a title. Triple H doesn't have a title match at WrestleMania. I'd be very curious to see what he does at WrestleMania. Maybe Triple H for Shawn Michaels, the last one or whatever. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, let us know what you think. We were going to do a second one, but I think we'll hold that one off. We were going to do, and I think Dave, we could save this one for down the road.
Yeah,
we were going to talk about, because he just retired, we were going to talk about AJ Styles, and what if he came in and say 2008, or maybe he wins Tough Enough or something of that nature, and he's in WWE earlier than the 2016 Royal Rumble, and he's around during Ruthless Aggression. You know what I mean? Would Vince treat him properly? Obviously, Vince was not a fan of the whole hillbilly sound, because obviously AJ's Georgia accent is very thick. But I think that one we'll save for down the road, because that one deserves a whole episode. Thank you for joining us on this amazing episode of Through the Looking Glass. Next month, of course, is April. So that, of course, will be WrestleMania month. So we will immediately start looking at our next and our past WrestleMania episodes. Again, please check them out in our archive. They're all excellent. We'll think of something. We're not going to reboot WrestleMania 19, we promise.
No more 2003. Although we did talk about Hogan and Austin. But,
yeah, we did. We did try to reboot WrestleMania 18.
That's 02. That's 02.
Yeah.
So that's not 03. But no, we're not going to touch 03. But look, we'll find a couple of WrestleMania thoughts. But look, if you're listening and you've got a thought of something that you think should have happened at WrestleMania, or you would have liked to have seen at a WrestleMania in the past, drop us a line. We'd be more than willing to consider a couple of of your WrestleMania options if you've got them, because it's WrestleMania month. So let us know, leave us a message and say, what about this? And we'll put it we'll consider it for the mix.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Check out all the great stuff on all of our feeds, of course. Here, the PTB Wrestling Network, the North-South Connection with the Jenny position within. The PTB Pop Experience, and the Backbone Wrestling Network, of course, as well. Chronoso, which Dave and I always talk about because Dave is an integral part of it, and I've been on a couple. There's a branch off, or a spin-off, if you will, of it. It is called Chronoso 1984. And just dropped on the North South. The good friend Aaron George did an episode talking about the match that pretty much made me a wrestling fan. And that is, of course, and you guys, for those who know me very, very long time, you know what that match is. And that's Jimmy Snuka and Magnificent Morocco, October 17th, 1983, from Madison Square Garden in the steel cage. I mean, Dave, if I reach out to Aaron, I will be on at least 1 or 12 of those episodes. So,
and we had I had the opportunity. I covered what I called during my piece. I called it the second most important match in WWF history. As silly as it sounds, it was a match between Bob Backlund and Samu of the Wild Samoans, but this was the match that brought Hulk Hogan back to the national stage.
Yes.
So this I labeled it the second most important match in wrestling history. While I reviewed that. So yeah, the 84 project is it's good fun. So for those, just the background of it, when the whole Chronoso journey originally started, it started at WrestleMania 5, and we only covered the pay-per-views for a couple of years, and then we started doing all the stuff in between. So the desire was to go back to the beginning of like the pinnacle, the rise of Hogan, sort of cover 84 and then fill in some gaps in 85 and 86 until we've sort of filled in everything that we haven't already done. So that's what this little project is about, but it's not taking over from the regular Chronoso journey, which will still be occurring.
Yes. Where are you on that? Oh, you know what? Before we go any further, before we finish up, Mr. Hall is a very happy little bee today because finally, after years and years of all the bullshit and all the backstage whatever, his guys are finally in.
The greatest tag team of all time.
Yes.
Number 1 GWWE tag team list, in my opinion. The greatest tag team of all time are now officially Hall of Famers. Axe and Smash, Demolition, just recently named to the Hall of Fame. I can't wait. I'm so excited about that. I'm so excited to see their induction.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I'm glad. Obviously, Smash was the one that didn't have any problems. Obviously, Axe was the one that was dealing with all the issues with Vince and all that kind of nonsense. But I'm very happy. It's a good class so far. We've got Cena, Stephanie, and Demolition. Right? Is that it so far? Right? Was that it? Who else?
Styles.
Oh, and
AJ Styles.
So we're just throwing all the retired guys in. Well, we can't really do. It breaks my heart, Dave, because
have they officially named Cena? Did they do that?
Oh, maybe not. I thought they did.
I can't remember if they've actually announced Cena is going in or not. I expect him to. I just can't. I know they did. They did the Stephanie one last year, where they announced her at the Women's Revolution. They announced she was going in. I remember AJ was done on television too, just recently, and Demolition was on a pod on a Zoom.
Taker announcer. Yeah, no, there is. You know what? Cena is not. No, you're right. It's Stephanie. AJ and Demolition. According to this,
with AJ going in, they may hold Cena off for a year or two when they need another big headliner.
It sounds like Taker's inducting all of them. Based on what I'm seeing here on Wiki, it says inducted by, and they all say Taker. That's weird.
I think because he's the one that told them they're going in.
Now, this breaks my heart, Dave, but unless you want to, I mean, I would totally put this ball in your court because I'll talk, you know me, I'll talk about anything. We really can't do a Through the Looking Glass with Demolition. What would we change?
Well, we could have Demolition return to the company anytime after 1991 once Axe has been cleared, and you could do some legend appearance. No, you really can't do a a Looking Glass proper because Axe was a little bit older. So I think.
There's not even a point to rebook when they were here.
No, you couldn't rebook.
Why would you?
You can only rebook, and we've I think we've actually touched on. You could only rebook the very tail end, the LOD storyline. You could rebook the LOD storyline, but outside of that, everything from their start till WrestleMania 6, you wouldn't touch it. It's only, and even then, I would say even to, apart from Crush having to be brought in because of the allergic reaction, the overreaction to the allergic reaction.
Right.
I mean, really everything, they were still on the trajectory to face the Hearts at SummerSlam, even if Crush didn't come in. And I think they still would have put the Hart Foundation over at SummerSlam, even if Crush wasn't needed. So I think everything to SummerSlam would never have changed. It's just the LOD storyline. Get rid of Crush and book that properly. Blow off at WrestleMania 7, Demolition win. Oh, sorry.
Now, Dave, we're entering some touchy territory. All right. Road Warriors always win. No, I'm just kidding. No. As long as we don't touch WrestleMania 6, because that pop when they beat the Colossal Connection is still one of my favorite moments, like, ever.
I'll tell you what, if you wanted to do a Demolition moving forward, what if Demolition went to WCW?
Interesting.
Maybe we'll put that one in the bag for later.
Could they be called Demolition?
Axe owned the name. That was part of the problem.
Oh, did he really? I don't remember that.
Yes.
Wow. Maybe I did remember that and forgot.
That's why when he went, because he was using the gimmick on the independent circuit, and WWF actually tried to stop him, and it came out that Axe actually owned the copyright on Demolition.
Smart job by the Masked Superstar.
And I believe for a while that was why you got the redubs on the DVDs of the Demolition music, because of the references.
Oh, good call.
So, but so Axe actually had the copyright, owned the copyright to Demolition after he left the company. Basically, I think it was sort of after Demolition stopped, Axe was able to get for some reason he ended up with the ownership. Whether he had it before he left and just allowed, Barry to continue, Barry and Crush to continue with the name because they were his friends. I mean, Barry was his good friend, or whether he acquired it just after Demolition sort of stopped working. I don't know that, but I do know that he held the copyright. So they could have gone anywhere with that name.
Interesting. It's kind of great. Yeah, that's pretty great. I never knew that. And if I did, I forgot. So yes. So officially right now, the Hall of Fame class is just Stephanie, AJ Styles, and Demolition. The next guy, though, can we keep the list going, Dave? Since we've banged the drum enough for Demolition, it's time to start talking a little Rick Martel.
Oh yeah.
Come on, really?
Yeah, Rick and well, I'll tell you what. If you want to take WrestleMania up to Canada, the Rougeaus.
Yes. Dun, 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 dun.
I'll tell you what. The one thing the Chronoso journey gave me, the doing the Chronoso, this experience that we've been doing with the podcast for Chronoso, I did a lot of Rougeau matches. I always liked the Rougeaus, but when I started watching all these other matches that became a part of the Chronoso episodes, what I was actually, my respect, they're a lot better than I ever thought. They were really, really good, and they were one of those teams that they never really, the matches they were in on pay-per-view, they were never really in the position to let them do everything they needed to do. Like, yeah, a couple of matches against the Bushwhackers, these, the Survivor matches where they really weren't focused. But when you look at their MSG matches and their Philadelphia matches and stuff like that, they were phenomenal. They really were. And my regard for the Rougeos went up when I did the Cronoso matches I did for them. So there's another team I think I'd love to see in the Hall of Fame is Jacques and Raymond. Rick Martel, Jacques and Raymond. Make it a Canadian, French Canadian. Kevin Owens can go in with them.
Dino Bravo.
Well, now do his connections disqualify him? Bravo should never. Bravo was he was terrible. He was terrible. He was terrible in ring, and he got worse.
He was terrible. I'm looking at AJ's before we go. I'm looking at AJ's resume. Holy man, what a stud! What a stud! Seriously.
Yeah.
2 match of the years, 2006, 2009. He had a match of the. I mean, listen, can anybody else have a 2009 match of the year with Sting? I mean, really? You know,
who's that? Where are those match of the years? There is that.
The first one was the.
No. So what? Where's the award from? Is that PWI or is that
the
Observer?
The TNA year-end awards. Sorry, they're not real. The TNA.
Because I was going to say, I'm pretty certain when it came to both PWI and Observer, I think the 3-way match between AJ, Christopher Daniels, and Samoa Joe, I'm pretty certain that was a match of the year.
That was Unbreakable. Greg Diener and I actually did that show on WrestleTracks. So PWI, PWI's one match of the year with him was him and Cena at SummerSlam in 2016, which another match I was blessed to see live. Tag team of the year in 2006 with Daniels. He was the most popular wrestler. 2017 and 2018. He was Wrestler of the Year from 2016 through 2018, and he was the Wrestler of the Decade for the 2010s. And he was number 1 PWI wrestler in the PWI 500 in 2010. The Observer, so Dave, I guess you could say, he was Best Flying Wrestler in 2005, Best Wrestling Maneuver, the Styles Clash, in 2003 and 2015. Most Outstanding Wrestler, 2014 through 2016. Match of the Year 2014 versus Minoru Suzuki on October 1st, a match that I think Steve Willie and I... Is that the match Steve Willie and I did on Pod of Honor? I think it is. Wrestler of the Year 2015, 2016. U.S. Canada MVP 2018, whatever the hell that is. He did do the worst... He was in the worst worked match of the year, the Reverse Battle Royal on October 26, 2006. But I'd probably blame that on TNA's shitty gimmicks. And the Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame in 2017. So, and he won a Slammy. And I mean, that's really all that matters. So anyway, AJ's just amazing. And we're definitely going to do an AJ episode because I like that.
And look, I don't, I've said it before, we didn't really get TNA down here in Australia, but his matches with Kurt Angle as well in TNA were up there as some pretty phenomenal matches. So, the guy was just gold wherever he wrestled.
Yeah. I mean, we're watching, obviously if you listen to Main Event, we hope you do. Steve and Reish and I are in, during our Main Event archives, we're in 03 TNA. And if you go through the history of TNA all the way through when he leaves, he is the cornerstone of that company. Never left. Always booked right. He was TNA. But as usual, but again, he got screwed around with. So another person that Dixie Carter pissed off. So anyway, there's your Hall of Fame class. This whole soliloquy was to congratulate Dave on his guys going into Hall of Fame. So excuse me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for joining us. We will of course be back in April, something WrestleMania themed because it's WrestleMania month. You can check out Dave everywhere. You can check out me everywhere. Check out all of our pods, and we will see you in April through the Looking Glass.